the fact that you are now a socialist that believes in big government.
There's no inconsistency whatsoever in my position. I was asked a straightforward question. Will you implement SAP? And I said, no. Nigerian people wouldn't have voted for me to implement the policy of the federal military government. We will implement the SDP policy. If NRC's business is to carry on SAP, that is their own party policy. That is the first thing. There's no inconsistency. I pointed out issues of budget deficit. I pointed out issues of oversupply of cash into circulation, which were reported by your candidates as being atrocious. These are the consequences of the implementation of SAP, which I said we will not implement. So this question about inconsistencies and so on, I don't know where you found it from. I supported the idea of SAP when it was introduced, because no country in the world will sell goods to Nigeria other than for current purchases, other than on a cash and carry basis. And that is the only way we could have survived as a nation at that time. See, there are so many ways of going about this thing. The question you have not really asked me what the alternatives are, but I will tell you. SAP, to the extent that it pumped out more money than the goods are available, is antisocial. It makes life difficult for those on small income. It makes life a nightmare for the poor. But it was not intended like that. Nobody told us that to be part of the maladies. And secondly, I've just told you that the introduction was sound at the time it was done. I bagged it. There was no way we could buy when we owed for so many months. We didn't even know how much we owed for a long time. You see, the problem we have in this country is the problem of management. What type of managers are people who owe without knowing how much they owe? We had to appoint Chase, a foreign bank, to calculate how much money that we owed to foreigners, when the records are here in our central bank. Anyway, the truth of the matter is that there's no consistency at all. I would never be an advocate of import licensing. I challenged it several times. No, there are other ways of going about what we are doing. And those other ways, when the question that is specific to that is asked, we will say it. But see, it is already in our policy program, farewell to poverty. And that is a very highly considered view. In actual fact, we have just been told that the IMF themselves have said that the thing is a flop. So are you now going to be holier than the Pope? I mean, those who brought this policy said this, damned as flop. And you are now saying that you want to continue, carry on. Nigerians won't follow you. No way.
The next issue is the weak engineering base of the economy. And Alhaji Bashir, it's for you. Without a solid technological base, the country cannot produce intermediate and capital goods, namely motors, tools, machines, and spare parts. And it will continue to depend on other countries and support factories abroad. What are you going to do about the weak technological base of this economy?
Well, you see, essentially the problem of this country is economic and lack of good planning. I wish you had allowed me, to complete my thesis about how you wanted me to put this economy right. I just started and you stopped me. However, with regards to that, I think it's an issue of education and how you structure it, and also a matter of defining your national objectives with regards to technology. When you take education itself, we have to plan education in a way that we want to develop. We have to plan education that way, otherwise we shall be planning for nothing. I believe that we have to plan education for technology, especially at this time when our country needs certainly technological takeoff. If you go back a little, I think 1980, when the Second Republic began in 1979, they created a Ministry of Science and Technology. And this was a very good idea. But unfortunately, when the military came, they scrapped it. So going back and forth, and then we had it again, and then we scrapped it. So we were not sure really what we wanted. But I think we can structure our education in such a way that we can give emphasis to technology in education, right from secondary school to technical colleges and to universities. It is necessary, in my opinion, that we specialize. We get certain universities to specialize in certain aspects of technology, in certain aspects of sciences, because that is what Nigeria needs nowadays. And we have to certainly fund education as heavily as we can. Right now, it is deplorable, the amount of money we pump into education, just under half of what UNESCO advised, about 5%. And UNESCO's level will be about 15%. So I think what we have to do now is to get money into education by reprioritizing our priorities, by casting them again. My government will certainly put more money into education so that we can achieve that technological status that we need. We have to put our curriculum right. We have to focus our attention to education. The Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Technology must be given this rightful place so that it can work and train Nigerians for this technology.
Thanks very much. Bashir.
Well, education is a very difficult crisis in Nigeria. So much so that we simply will have to start all over again. The priority has to be accorded to education in everything that we do. Forget about technology. Education itself. I was calculating about 2 weeks ago. We are now in the month of June. At that time, it was about the 22nd of May. Children in Nigeria lost 3 months from the classroom. They don't even know what the classroom look like anymore in serious. Teachers are on strike, they are not on strike, there's some problem here and there. And see, we must take politics out of education and education out of politics. Education is our future. If you say that you really must look at the percentages and so on before you can fund education, well, it's expensive, but how less expensive is ignorance. So there's a fundamental position there. Then you go to basic things like library. There are no books in any library. In primary schools, in secondary schools, there are no laboratory equipment. Boys doing their honors degree in sciences do what they call theoretical practical. Ordinary test tube, ordinary bulb for microscope and not available. No pipette, no test tubes. We have to really get certain basic things right. We are not going to be able to join the world as we know it at the end of this century unless we do something extra. But we can have a shortcut. We have a lot of Nigerians, many of them, in America, in Europe, even in Russia. The number 2 man in Sunobu, that nuclear power plant that blew up, was a Nigerian. He was on vacation in the U.S. They sent a whole Illusion Institute to go and bring him back to get things done. I know the young man, only 41. So there are Nigerians in these key areas of technological advancement who we can bring back into Nigeria. And that is what I intend to do. Have a transit arrangement with them. They have to take some time off from their place of work, come and see things at home, encourage with money. Even we will give them houses, 4-bedroom houses and so on. Give them cars. And make them really want to do something for it, even if they're coming for only 3 years. So we have the people. And I think these are the things we can do. Have a clarion call on them. And we have so many of them in the U.S.
I must stop you,
thank you.
On this point. Well, questions from the NRC side. One question.
Chief of General.
Yes.
You are an aspirant to the presidential office of Nigeria.
I'm a candidate.
A candidate, I'm sorry, a correction. You realize, of course, that to achieve technological diversification, sufficient foreign investment is necessary.
This is true.
And over the last 2 decades, you have presided over one of the largest international multinationals in this country, the ITT.
Yes.
How much technology has ITT transferred into Nigeria?
Thank you.
How much of your own enormous and personal wealth is invested in Nigeria. And if most of your wealth is invested abroad, how do you expect to attract foreign investment into this country? Thank you, sir.
Well, simple. ITT made the proposal in 1975 to build a telephone exchange factory here. We went ahead, we even acquired land in Abeokuta. All we want is a definition of what type of various equipment should be manufactured. Is it cross-bar? Is it digital? Is it electronic? Meetings were held, people came from America, came from Europe. At the time I went out of the country myself, I would come back again to attend these meetings. Nothing came out of it. Not a single frame of telecommunication is manufactured in Nigeria today, because it pays of officials to be importing these things from abroad. In fact, because I kept pressing to have the thing manufactured in Nigeria, we got blacklisted. ITT was just being able to have a digital exchange contract only 3 months ago. That contract has been negotiated and signed as far as 1984. It has not been perfected until 3 months ago. That is to tell you what I've had to run through. And as regards my investment in Nigeria, I invested a total of, in Naira, looking at the asset basis now of broiler farms in Dakar, where I have 6,000 hectares of land, and Lafiagi in Kwara. In my farm alone, there has been an amount of over 1.5 billion naira invested. And I supply, when the Ministry of Agriculture were looking for grain, only 12 months ago, the 7,500 tons they were looking for, they picked up in 3 days from my silo. I went into farming because I was in Ethiopia and I saw many young children die.
I'm sorry I must rule you out of order. SDP.
Yep. While I appreciate the concern of the NRC presidential candidate for the enhancement and development of education in Nigeria, number one, I don't think that's the basic issue, the basic question you asked. The question you asked is that of a technological taker and industrial infrastructure, if I understood it properly. And number two, I think he gives two general answers instead of being specific.
Are you asking a question?
I'm asking a question. Why is he not specific in the answers he gives?
Ask your question.
That's the question I'm asking. Why is he not specific in the questions he gives? In the answers he gives? They are too general. They should be specific.
Well, I don't know how specific I can get to when you talk about education. Apart to tell you that the structure of education is not in line with our technological aspirations. And we have been badly planning education, and that we have to restructure right now. Right? I told you that even secondary schools have now got to be restructured so that technology can be a major aspect of secondary education. And I told you also universities need to specialize. We have to the universities to specialize. But all these things you can't do without funding. Even the problem that has been mentioned about riots in school, teachers' strikes and frustrations, and these are methods that have to do with funding, because these schools are not getting enough funds to do whatever they need to do the real thing that we have to do for this country. So you have to get that matter right. When you have the money to do these things, then you can be talking about proper education this time. You can be talking about structural education and financing that kind of structure. I think that is basic. Lack of funding is basic to our problem, because with sufficient funds, properly utilized, I'm sure all these problems will fade away. And with clear objectives about technology, about what we have to do. If you read even the book that I launched yesterday, I talked about this issue in greater detail. But I believe this is a time, in fact the time has been due for a long time, that Nigeria must now focus its attention towards technology. Because without that we are not going to make any. You see, we even have started like a Jakarta plant or all these things. But how can you use those if there is nothing to back it, if there is no education to back it?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you a lot. Now, Pastor Abiola, the next issue. What is your attitude to